So now let's talk about Hadoop architecture, which is the most important thing. So far, whatever we studied, we just studied it in a very generic way. But now let's try to understand what are the component we have in our Hadoop and how does it work actually. Okay, so let's take one system. Okay, and let's say we have installed Hadoop in this system. Or let me start with the cluster that will make our life easy. Let's say we have a cluster. Okay, now let's assume that we have a cluster of 4 nodes here and 1 node here. Hadoop works on the principle of master and slave. Master the king, slaves are the workers. So here I'll consider this system as a master, and all the systems are actually slave. Slave 1, slave 2, slave 3, slave 4. Okay, so in Hadoop architecture there is a component called master. These are all nodes, these are all one independent system, one independent computer. Okay, so here I have one master and we have slaves. Now what we will do is we will install Hadoop here, we will install Hadoop here, we will install Hadoop here, and everywhere we will install Hadoop, and we'll do some sort of configuration. Okay, and that configuration will make this system as a master, and the same configuration will make this system as slave systems. Now in this master we'll have a program, we call it name node. Okay, name node is the process. So when you talk about Hadoop, okay, when you talk about Hadoop, we have various components like name node, secondary name node, job tracker, task tracker, and finally data node. Okay, installing Hadoop means installing these processes, running these processes. So in the master you will see name node. Okay, and additionally you may have one more system. Additionally you may have one more system, and this system will act as a secondary name node. Okay, but this guy will have very small contribution in the whole process, but still the importance is there for this guy. Now here we'll have data node, okay, and we'll have job tracker. Here you'll have data node, sorry, it is not job tracker, it is task tracker. Okay, here you'll have data node, and task tracker. Here again data node, task tracker, data node, tracker. Okay, and we completed name node, we completed secondary name node, we completed data node, we completed task tracker, and you will have a job tracker here. Okay, so when I say that I have configured my own Hadoop cluster, that means I have installed the Hadoop software and I have started this process. Okay, these are the processes. You'll get more clarity when we do it on our own system practically. Okay, so these components, if in a computer, if in a node, if you see name node is running, job tracker is running, that means it is a master. If you see in a node, data node is running and task tracker is running, that means it is a slave. Okay, so all this computer, all these nodes will interact with this master. Okay, and there is some work with the secondary name node. We'll discuss that later. We are not going to touch anything now. So let's just discuss about these people. Okay, let's just discuss about this component. Now let's assume that okay, I'll talk about file system now. So let's talk about file system as well. It is very important. Now all the systems are Windows machine or Linux box. Yes, all the systems are Linux box or Windows machine. No idea? Usually you can install Hadoop on Linux as well as you can install Hadoop on Windows, but practically and professionally we install Hadoop in Linux boxes. Okay, so I'll say let's say Java 7 is installed and it is a Linux box. So here also the same configuration. Okay, same Java 7 and Linux box, same software, same Hadoop component will be installed everywhere. Okay, so when you install Hadoop, Hadoop will come in various versions, Hadoop 1, Hadoop 2 and all. So if you are installing Hadoop 1 dot, let's say 0.4, so you go and install the same version across all the nodes. Okay, you should not make it like this. Hadoop 1.0.3 is installed here, Hadoop 1.0.4 is installed here, because the difference in the component may create a problem later. Now all these are actually a Linux box, 1 2 3 4. Okay, so if you log into this system, okay, if you log into this system and if you write ls, if you log into this system and if you write ls, if you log into this system, if you write ls, what output will you get? Will you get same output or will you get different output? Okay, so these are different file systems. Okay, so this data node has its own operating system, has its own processing CPUs, has its own hard disk, has its own RAM. So here the file system, and here the file system, here the file system, here the file system, all these file systems are different. So when you write ls here, it may give you different result. Again, when you write ls here, it may give you some different output. Here when you write ls, it may give you some other output. here you write ls, you'll get some other output. Okay, that means all these have their own file system. Okay, but when you install Hadoop on this system, when you configure and when you make it a cluster, two things will come into the picture. Okay, Hadoop has its own storage system. We call it SDFS, Hadoop Distributed File System, and its own processing language. We call it MapReduce. So do you remember yesterday we discussed that Hadoop is used to store and process huge amount of data, is not it? I said it can be used to store huge amount of data as well as it can be used to process huge amount of data. Now to store the data, which file system it will use? SDFS. Okay, to process those data, which language it is going to use? MapReduce. Getting my point? So when you install Hadoop in these five systems, when you install Hadoop in this file system, you will get SDFS, you will get MapReduce support. Agreed? Now the SDFS is basically a file system. See, the Linux, there may be different file system for Linux. For example, if you talk about Windows, you have NTFS, you have FAT, you have FAT32. These are file system, is not it? Similarly, in the Linux, you may have some different file system. That file system is completely different from SDFS. Okay, but SDFS is built on top of those file systems. So I'll say like this. This whole system okay, they make a file system, combiningly they make a file system called SDFS. Okay, they make a file system called SDFS, and this SDFS is built by taking all these systems. Okay, now let's assume the capacity of these systems are 1 TB each. Okay, 1 TB, 1 TB, 1 TB, 1 TB. Now if you log into this node, okay, without using Hadoop, if you log into this node by simply Linux login, okay, so what will be the size of this system? Only this system. If you try to access this data node not by using Hadoop but by using a simple Linux, okay, what is the size available in this node? Only 1 TB. Now will you be able to store the data of 4 TB or 2 TB? No. Okay, similarly if you log into this terminal, to this system terminal, you will be allowed to store only 1 terabyte of data. However, if you log in to SDFS, okay, if you connect to SDFS, then what is the size you will get here? 4 terabytes. Are you getting the difference? Yes, 4 terabytes for all the data nodes. That means in case of Hadoop, when you store some file, let's say I have a file of 200 MB. Okay, let's say I have one file of 200 MB. In how many blocks it will be divided? 200 MB. 4 blocks, right? So the block would be block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. So what would be the size of the block? 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the size of the block, let's say 64 MB only. Okay, whereas if you talk about split, it would be around 63 point etc. So 64, 64, 64, and what remains? 6 3s are 18, 192, 8. Okay, and my file name was abc.txt. So are you getting my point? I had a file called abc.txt. The size of the file was 200 megabytes. Okay, and I gave that file to Hadoop. Now in Hadoop, the default block size is 64 MB. That means this data will be stored in 4 blocks. Right? Now this 4 block can be stored anywhere, here, 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 or here. Okay, no such rule. It can be stored anywhere, which will be decided by your Hadoop only. So let's say block 1 got stored here. Okay, let's say block 2 and block 3 got stored here. Let's say block 4 got stored here. Okay, so internally Hadoop will store this data. When you give this file, Hadoop will divide this data, this file into 4 blocks: block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, and it will start storing the data somewhere here, anywhere in the cluster. Okay, and as a programmer, as an end user, you will not have any clue where this data are actually stored, in which node. Okay, but when you say, when you want to see this file, you just tell to Hadoop, I want to see this file. So what it will do, it actually maintains a table. Say file abc.txt. File abc.txt I have divided into 4 blocks. B1 I have stored here, B2, B3 I have stored here, B4 I have stored here. So they maintain some sort of directory, okay, where all the audit will be stored, the whole detail of the file will be stored, and whenever you demand Hadoop for this file, it will look into that register. It will check where exactly all the data are stored. It will go and fetch the data, and it will give the data to the end user. Are you clear? So my conclusion is, whenever you're working with SDFS, do not worry about where the data is stored. Okay, I just gave you an example. Even I am not sure whether B1 will be stored here only or not. So whenever you give some data to Hadoop for storage, Hadoop will divide the data into 4 parts. Okay, part 1, part 2, and etc. And this data may be stored anywhere in the cluster. Are you getting my point? Okay, now one question in my mind. You said that all these systems are commodity hardware, right? That means a normal, cheap, non-reliable hardware. Okay, what will happen if this node goes down, if this node fails to work, to operate, and this node get down? Am I going to lose this B4? Yes or no? We store the data in these 4 nodes, 3 nodes. So what will happen if this B4 gets down? We will lose this B4 data, is not it? If this slave 3, if the third node goes down, we lose B4 data, and if we lose the B4 data, then the output of the processing will go wrong, is not it? Because this is also a part of the output. I want to find out total employees whose age is greater than 30. Okay, and maybe in this file there are many number of employees whose age is greater than 30, and if this goes down, we'll not be able to calculate the data from here. Okay, so in order to avoid that, Hadoop maintains something called replication factor. Okay, Hadoop maintains something called replication factor. The default replication factor is 3. That means each block you duplicate it and store it in different system. Okay, the default replication factor is 3. That means whenever a file is given, let's say 200 MB, it was broken down into 4 blocks: block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. Now each block will be replicated 3 times. Okay, so block B1 will be replicated 3 times. B1 is here now, so it will go and store the block here as well. B2 is here, so it may go and store B2 here. B1, and let's say B1 here also. Okay, B2 is stored here, we'll store B2 here also, and B2 is stored here as well. B3, it is stored here, we'll store B3 here, or let's say we'll store B3 here. B4 is stored here, so we'll store B4 here. Let's store B4 here also. And here also. Now if you see, B1 is stored here, here as well as here. B2 is stored here, here as well as here. B3 is stored here, here as well as here. B4 here, here and here. Oh, I stored it in 4 different places. You can remove this part. Okay, now if while processing, if this node goes down, still I can get B1 from here, I can get B2 from here, B3 from here, B4 from here. If this goes down, I can still get the data from other blocks, right? Yes or no? Okay, so this is how Hadoop will take care of hardware failure. If the system is not responding, if the node is not responding, then it will go and pick the data from some other node. Okay, now let's say you have that employee detail, whatever employee we discussed, employee age, employee name and all. So let's say you gave that data to Hadoop for processing. So what Hadoop will do, first, if the size is 200 MB, divided into 4 blocks, block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. Now replicate the data based on the replication factor. It is configurable, we can change this value. Okay, so it will replicate to 3 times, B1, 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 and it will start storing in different nodes. Okay, and it will make sure that if the B1 is stored here, the second copy will not be stored here at any cost, because there is no point of doing that. Okay, so if B1 is stored here, then the next B1 block will be stored in some other system. Again, the next B block will be stored in some other system. Okay, now in this way it maintains the replication, and it makes sure that even if one node goes down, then automatically it will start interacting with communicating with other node to process the missed block. Okay, now let me take one more example. I'll just add few more block nodes here. Let's say this is one more node and this is one more node. Okay, now what is the default replication factor here? What is the default replication factor here? 3. Okay, so let's assume that these two block, this block and this block, sorry, this node and this node, not block, this node and this node, let's say these two node went out of order. Okay, we got some problem in these two nodes. So what will happen now? How many copy we have for B1? Now how many copy we have for B1? 2 copies. One copy is here and another copy is here. Okay, but what is your replication factor set to? 3. So are we meeting that criteria? No. That means when your total copy is not meeting your replication factor, okay, your Hadoop will start finding another suitable node. Do we have any extra node here? These are 3 extra nodes we have recently added. Okay, so you just try to understand that these are also the node and it is a part of cluster. Right, so we have some extra nodes here, and our replication factor is actually 3, but due to some hardware failure, B1 has only 2 copy, whereas our replication factor was set to 3. Now Hadoop will make this intelligence guess, okay, and automatically it will start copying the data from this system to any of these 3 systems. Okay, B1. Now the B1 replica is set to 3. How about B2? How many copies we have for B2? Just one. We need 2 more, right? So maybe B2 will be stored here, 1 copy, and another copy of B2 may be stored here. Okay, next B3. How many copy we have for B3? Again 1. So B3 may be stored here and B3 may be stored here. How many copy we have for B4? Only 1. So B4 may be stored here itself. Here also. So now did we meet the replication 3 for all the blocks? Yes, so this is how the Hadoop will make sure that the data is not under replication. Okay, now in the coming future, let's say these two block came up. In the coming future, let's say these two block came up. Now don't you think we are this time we will have over replication, because these blocks will also come up, isn't it? At that time Hadoop will make its best guess to delete the data, to delete the block. It may delete the block from here, or even it may delete the block from here, anywhere, from anywhere. Okay, so it may delete from here or it may delete from here. It depends on um, it depends on the Hadoop. Okay, so see, when we are talking about cluster, the distance between these two nodes may be very small as compared to the distance between this node and this node. Okay, so if that is the case, then the Hadoop may decide to delete the block from this system because it is very far from the node, because there is a lot of gap, there is a long gap between this and this. Clear on this? Now again, let me talk one more important thing: speculative execution. Speculative execution. Let's say B1, B3, B4, B1, B2, B2, B4, B1, B2, and etc. So let's assume that we want to process some data, and Hadoop started processing B1 from here. Okay, Hadoop started processing B2 from here. It started processing B3 from here. It started processing B4 from here. So B1, B1 from here, B2 from here, B3 from here, and B4 from here. Okay, it started processing these data, right? Because our abc.txt contains 4 blocks, and if we process these 4 blocks from all these computers, then we'll achieve our requirement. Now at that time, let's say this B4 started reacting very slow, or let's say B4 is not responding. Okay, not responding means I'm not saying that it went down completely, but it started taking a lot of time to complete the work. Okay, so try to understand. I'm not saying that it is dead. I'm not saying that this block went out of order. This node went out of order. This node is still there, alive, but the processing power, okay, it is taking a lot of time to process the data. Okay, so at that time what will happen, what may happen? This guy will wait till certain amount of time that is configurable. Okay, and if by that time also it is not able to give the result, then it will start processing the same data in some other node, maybe let's say here. Okay, so now there are the B4 block is processed under 2 different nodes. Okay, and let's assume that this guy was able to process the data. This guy was able to process the data much more quickly than this node. So what will happen? The result of this B4 will be taken, will be considered, whereas the result of this B4 will be discarded. And this is what we call, this scenario is what we call speculative execution. That means execution of same data in more than one nodes. Clear on this? Now let's talk about, we talked about SDFS, right? We talked about SDFS, what exactly the SDFS is. Now let's talk about MapReduce program. So let's say I have a file called employee.txt which contains 1000 lines, okay, and each line contains details like this: employee ID, employee name, employee salary, employee age. 102, employee name, employee salary, employee age. 103, okay, I should respect the senior, let's give him some hike. Alright, now let's assume that we have similar 10,000 lines, okay, and it is of 100 MB or let's say 200 MB. How many blocks? 4 blocks, right? So block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. So 1000 line, 4 blocks. So in each block, what will be the average number of lines? Okay, 250, 250, 250, 250. But the block size is 64 MB, right? That means 64 MB here, 64 MB here, 64 MB here, 64 MB, sorry, here 8 MB. Okay, so we can say here let's say 50 records here and 200, right? 200 by 3 goes to 180. So let's say 370, 370, 370. Let's assume that the total comes to 1000. Okay, are you understanding my point? So 64 MB they will occupy more records, 8 MB it will occupy less record. Right, now as per my cluster we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. We have 7 nodes, is not it? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Node 1, node 2, node 3, node 4, node 5, node 6, node 7. Okay, so node 1 will store B1, B3 and B4. B1, B3, B4. Node 2 is down, node 3 is down, node 4 will store B1 and B2. Node 5 will store b1, b3, b4. 6 will store b1 and b3. 7 will store b2 and b4. Okay, so we had a data of 200 MB divided across 4 blocks, and as per our replication factor the data were divided across many nodes. Now when you write your MapReduce program, and submit it to Hadoop, okay, we'll see all these things practically. So since it is initial days, let's go theoretically, and once we start learning Hadoop, we'll do all these things practically. So when we write our MapReduce program and submit it to Hadoop, Hadoop will send that program to all the data nodes, to all the slave nodes. Okay, check it out here. How many slaves we have? How many slaves we have? Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 active nodes. Okay, let's say you wrote a MapReduce program using Java. Okay, and we want to execute that program, and we want to process this file. So we have already stored first we have given our file to Hadoop. Hadoop has divided that into block, and the blocks were replicated and stored in various nodes. Now we wrote a very small Java program. What will be the size of that program? What will be the size of that program? That size will go 2 KBs, okay, some KBs. So we wrote that program and we gave it to Hadoop. Now what the Hadoop will do? Hadoop will send that program to all the nodes. Okay, this node, this node, this node, this node. Right now I am saying Hadoop will send that program, but later we will talk who is the actual component who takes the program and who distributes the program. Okay, so for the timing, let's talk about very high level. Going down the line, we'll see in detail. So when you submit your job to Hadoop, Hadoop will send that program, that MapReduce program, we will submit in form of jar file. Okay, we'll write the Java program and we'll create a jar file out of it, and that Java jar file we will send it to Hadoop. Hadoop will send that jar file to all the active component. So it will send the jar file here, it will send that jar file to here, it will send the jar file to here, it will send the jar file to here, it will send the jar file to here also. Okay, that means now all these nodes, all these active nodes will get jar file. Let's say find employee greater than 30.jar. So this is my jar file. I wrote some MapReduce program, and it contains some MapReduce program, and now I send that program to, I submitted that program to Hadoop, and Hadoop has submitted this program to, it has distributed the program to all the active nodes. Okay, now the data resides on server or slave. The data resides on master or slave. Slaves, right? So the data resides here. Okay, the data resides here. Who takes care of that data? That data will be taken care by this data node. Okay, the data will be maintained. The data will be maintained by this data node. Getting my point? Alright, so the data will be maintained here. In this node, I have B1 data, I have B3 data, I have B4 data. So this block will be maintained by data node. here this block will be maintained by another data node. Okay, now when you submit that data, sorry, when you submit your MapReduce program, that MapReduce program comes here, and this task tracker will take care of executing the MapReduce program. Okay, so if I talk about the processes, this data node is actually one JVM, one separate program. This task tracker is another JVM, another separate program. This name node is another separate program. This job tracker is another separate program. Okay, so when you submit your data, when you submit your job, the job will travel to all these nodes, and that job will be executed under the guidance of task tracker. Okay, so when you submit the job, your job will be taken by this job tracker. Okay, he is the guy. I used to say we submit the job to Hadoop. Hadoop will send it. It is not the Hadoop, it is this guy, job tracker. So the user submits the job. That job submission will be taken care by job tracker, and now the job tracker will send that job to all the systems. Okay, and based on the suitability, based on the efficiency, it will be decided which block, which node will process what. Okay, and those decisions will be made by your job tracker only, because processing the data. Okay, but when you submit your file for storing, okay, when you submit your 200 MB of file for storing, it gets divided into block, and then all these blocks are stored somewhere here and there, right? So this block, creating the block, dividing them into the block, and storing it on a particular node will be taken care by name node. Are you getting my point? So it is the name node who takes your data, splits that into file, into blocks, and decides which block will be reside where, which block will reside where. And once you start storing that data, it is the guy, he's the person who also maintains the register, saying that abc.txt is divided into b1, b2, b3, b4. b1 is stored here, here, and somewhere here. Okay, b2 is stored in 3 different places, b4 is stored in some 4 different places. So did you understand the responsibility of name node? Name node is basically responsible to store the data across the Hadoop cluster. Okay, it is not actually going to store the data, will be actually stored by will be stored in this component, in these nodes, and it will be monitored by the data node. But it is the responsibility of the name node to break the data, to break the file into blocks and categorize that block and send that block to different sleeps. And under the sleep, it is the data node who will take care of storing and maintaining the data. Clear on this? Okay, now when you submit your job, job tracker and task tracker. Okay, when you submit your data, name node and your data node. Clear on this? So we talked about these processes. We talked about name node. Secondary name node is also there. We will not touch it now. We have job tracker. We have task tracker. And we have data node. Okay, so name node, is it a master or slave? Okay, master. If he is the master, who is the slave of this guy? Okay, again, job tracker is a master or slave? Who is the slave of this guy? And this is completely a different component. It is not a master, it is not a slave. What is the use of secondary name node? We will discuss some other day. Okay, so this name node and this job tracker, you will see it on a single system. Okay, name node and job tracker, you may see it on the same system. Data node and task job tracker, you will see it on different system. Clear on this? Okay.